That's right. It's a fresh new edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you for the first time and the last time. We'll get to that here in a minute. Soren Petro, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star joins us here in the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Much to get to today. First of all, the topics of the day. We'll talk about, should the Chiefs still be looking at wide receiver options? Does Rashee Rice need to answer questions to Kansas City's media at the OTAs? Speak to the fans we're talking about after everything that's gone on. Wanya Morris and Chukwuebuka.
Don't hurt yourself, Soren.
I will. Godrick arrested for possession of marijuana in Kansas. Foolish, yes, but meaningful, don't know. We'll talk about Harrison Butler and his comments. Do they deserve all the attention that they're getting, or the off-field issues a sign that the Chiefs are not focused and ready to go for a third consecutive championship? And are they not getting enough conversation about the fact that they're trying to replace a number one corner and a left tackle? We talk about it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
And yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Curtis. Back at it here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, proudly brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lots. We'll get to them here in a little bit. We'll get to the news of the day here in a little bit. First of all, Jeff, we got to welcome somebody into the mix here. Sam McDowell, columnist for the Kansas City Star. I would say a good friend of the podcast. He's been on many times. He's filled in for us when one of us is gone and does a fantastic job for the Star. We have a new addition. Everybody saw that Eric Eager's a big deal now, big shot vice president in the National Football League. So we turn to the columnist of the Star. Welcome, Sam. Jeff, how are you? What do you think? What do you want to say to Sam on his first night officially being a full-fledged member?
You used the right term, new edition, because I'm reminded of one of my favorite bands when I was a young guy when they lost Bobby Brown, but they found Johnny Gill. I think we found our Johnny Gill in Sam. Eric's going to be the Bobby Brown, go off, do his thing, the solo act, be a big deal in the NFL, but we got a guy coming in who's got chops, who's already had his own career going, has built the brand up for himself, so he just adds to the mix. So welcome to our homeboy.
Yeah, you got anything to say for yourself, Sam?
No, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I will be less of a distraction outside this podcast than the Chiefs editions this offseason.
I love it. Okay. We look forward to that for sure. Let's now, with the, like you said, Johnny Gill leaving, Jeff. Oh, wait a minute.
Bobby Brown leaving.
Bobby Brown leaving.
Yeah.
Our Bobby Brown is gone, but not forgotten, right? We don't forget the great Eric Eager. And in fact, he's back. I think we all need to enjoy it, right? Because, loose lips sink ships in the NFL. I don't know if you boys know that. And so I don't know that we're going to be seeing. When do you think the next time we'll see this smiling face on our podcast? Again, we welcome Eric Eager back. One final go-round as he heads off to be a big deal now. What are you going to say, Eric?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm already in my apartment here in Charlotte. I apologize for kind of leaving abruptly, but I hope all you guys will understand. And I apologize also for not giving away literally anything tonight, but I just wanted to come on and tell you guys how much I love you guys and how much I appreciate you guys. And I know that Sam will do an awesome job, but I've really enjoyed doing this show for 3 years. And we got 2 Super Bowl rings out of the Chiefs during this show, which is more than the previous, 52 years combined or something. So it was a really fun time, and I'm looking forward to continue to watch and listen to the show. And you might even find a burner or two in the chat here from me.
Oh man, that's right.
He's already an NFL front office guy creating burners.
That's right. He's a Holic Jr.
Hey, but listen, we Jeff and I talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, really a couple of weeks ago when the news started becoming, getting out there about what was going on. This has been a dream of yours, right? Like this is something you really wanted to do, and opportunity knocked, and it's a door you can't not go through.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough that I've gotten to live out a lot of my dreams. I always wanted to be a math professor. I always wanted to be a media member. And I got to say, like, this was something, like you don't, 10 years ago, I had no designs on being in an NFL front office. So I'm just incredibly blessed. And you guys have obviously played an incredible part in refine, just getting to talk to you guys and just your wisdom and all of that. And I like I said, I appreciate you guys and everybody, including Tommy Moe in the chat there. Like I said, I wanted to come on and say goodbye to everybody and tell everybody how much I appreciate them and how much I miss them.
Well, let me highlight a couple of things. One, Sam will have to compete against Eager's hair. That's going to be a difficult task right there. We know that. Matt wants to welcome Sam. Beery mister. But can Sam do math? I don't know. Sam, are you going to pick up the math quotient on the show that we're losing with Eager moving on?
Not to that level, I don't think. But I do want to say one serious note, which is I will no longer be able to say that Eric is the smartest football mind who doesn't work for a team anymore. But like this, you're right, Soren. I mean, I think those of us who've known Eric for a while have known this path was something that he was on, but also we knew that was something he deserved for a long time now. And I'm surprised actually that it's just now 2024 that this leap is happening, but super happy for you and certainly don't think that this is going to be the peak for you.
I tried to tell people, I said, I don't think people understand how big a deal Eric is in this community, in the analytics world. And I think you're seeing now, first of all, Jeff and I take tremendous pride. Like, we feel like we raised you. We're sending you off. We got you the education. You're ready for the big real world of the NFL. So we take a lot of pride that our podcast spawned an NFL VP. That's pretty cool in our book. And we're certainly smarter for having worked with you. I do want to highlight a couple of things here. This is important too. How will we replace Eric's dog barking in the background?
I'm trying to decide if they make the trip to Charlotte with my family, to be honest with you.
This is a good one. Should be able to afford a good haircut now. I don't know. The podcast paid pretty good. We'll see what that NFL gig pays.
There's no Tommy Moe farewell comment. There has to be something. He's already gave a shout out to Sam for his swimming ability in high school.
Yeah. Why he picked Carolina to win the South last summer.
That's right.
He's figured that one out.
Eric is wearing blue too.
Yeah. There's a lot of them. You can afford to pay me all the steak dinners you lost. All those.
They're on me at the combine next year, Petro. You got to make it this next year.
Is that right? A lot of love for you, Eric. Here, I have to sit here and Sam. You got to work on the background. Just one thing, you need, people moving about, dogs barking, French.
I will say what I did tell Sam, and because Sam said, Sam is one of my favorite people in the media market. And frankly, in the NFL in general, I think that this market is incredibly blessed. Obviously, I have Jeff and Soren host an awesome talk show, but also have Sam cover the team. Your reporting on the stadium stuff, Sam, was unparalleled relative to what I saw in any columnist around the country. Like my shoes will not be difficult for you to fill. I think that this is going to be awesome, to the point where I'll probably still watch it, even though I will miss the podcast where you guys tolerated me sitting in my recliner 2 hours every Tuesday night and just talking ball with you guys. It'll be something I'll never forget.
Now, can you tell us what do they tell you about don't talk to these idiots? How is it phrased? Is that pretty much how it said?
I can't even tell you that, right? Petro, you tried to trap me right there, and I caught you. So,
is there anything in the works to try and trade for Noah Gray?
Yeah, because that's where Tommy wants to know. You gonna talk the owner into making the trade for the great Noah Gray?
I might have to log off, guys.
He's a Duke guy too, right? It's Carolina, born and bred.
So we don't want to get you in trouble. Nothing but love for you, brother. You're the absolute best. We look forward to seeing you. Whether it's the Combine or the Super Bowl or just getting down to Carolina and you make it to Kansas City. We know you probably won't come on the podcast, right? Because they are pretty strict about who you do and don't talk to. So we all understand it. Everybody in the chat room understands it. We got great listeners. They're smart. They get it. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the Carolina Panthers. I know you probably had to check with them and say, hey, I'm going to do a farewell. Tell them we said, hey, we appreciate you getting a chance to actually wave goodbye to everybody, all the fans, and hear that we actually do love you, Eric.
Well, I appreciate you guys. And Sam, you take it from here. Love you guys. And everybody who listened to us for 3 years, mean the world to me. Take care, everybody.
You're the best, Eric. Love you, buddy. Take it easy. There he goes. Go Panthers. On his way out the door, he gets in the Go Panthers. Well done.
Contractual, probably, I imagine.
What'd you say?
Contractual, probably, I imagine.
All right, now he's gone, so he can't get in trouble. What do you think they told him?
Make it brief. That's exactly what they said.
I think he's about 7 minutes over on about how long they really wanted him to go when it was all said and done. All right, we are even Eric Eager still. This one last time, his few minutes brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. That means anything you need done, the parking lot, they can do it. They've been making parking lot problems disappear in KC since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your lot. Get it taken care of right now by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, online at GannAsphalt.com. All right, the Love Fest is done. And we do wish Eric the best, and it is a great opportunity. We've said it a couple of times. Sam, I know you said it. You and I and Jeff, we've talked about it. What a great opportunity for him. And, now if we can just – what do we got to do? Get Sam a Pulitzer? What do we have to do to be the equal of –
Top that.
Yeah, getting Eric a presidency or vice presidency in the NFL. It's great. It's great. I love it. All right, let's dive into the topics. Should the Chiefs still be looking for a wide receiver, Jeff? Things look like, and we're going to get into the off the field issues here in a minute, but maybe things going the way of Rashee Rice as I don't know if you want to, Sam and I talked about this a little bit today on the radio show. The individual that was said to have been, who was accusing Rashee Rice of striking him, now is, signed an affidavit. He doesn't want charges filed. So that looks a little bit better, but he's still looming out there. How much is the wide receiver position still maybe the focal point for the Chiefs looking for a late ad?
Well, I think they have to keep their options open. I mean, they're still, as far as I know, the police are still investigating this, right? Even though the guy's not going to, cooperate with them, they're still going to look into this. So that is going to still catch the eye of Roger Goodell. And you don't need to have a conviction at this point or even a charge for him to be upset with Rashee Rice winding up back in the news after what happened with that, drag racing situation. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to, given they've already talked to Zay Jones, that there was supposedly reported interest in Tyler Boyd, I would think that they're keeping their eyes open. We're getting to the point in the offseason, the June 1st cut deadline, where you're going to see more people become available that might catch their interest. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about this offense relying heavily on Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy to make contributions, but really what they're supposed to, the biggest thing they'll provide is space for Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice to operate. Without Rashee Rice there, you got to find somebody else to pick up to fill that void. And I just don't believe that they trust either Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney to be that person. So yeah, I think they're certainly going to keep their eyes open.
Still the top priority, Sam?
Yeah, but I mean, it's an interesting situation with them at wide receiver, because I think when you look at like their number 4, 5, and 6, you say they don't really need to improve 4, 5, and 6. What we're talking about is adding a starter at a very specific position, which is the X position. And so like when you look at what they've done in the offseason, the draft with Worthy and Marquise Brown, it's guys that I don't think they had on the roster last year. The guys that could stretch the defense and, oh, by the way, also make the play once they were downfield, which is the separation from Marquez Valdez-Scantling last year. So I think last year we looked and said, okay, maybe they'll add some speed. They did add McCole Hardman right before the trade deadline. If they're going to add a body this year, to me, it's got to fit a very specific skill set at that X position. Because I agree with Jeff, like the NFL is going to look at Rashee Rice's situation and say, we don't care if there's a conviction or not. What does the evidence suggest to us, not confirm for us? And I think that leads them to think that there's going to be a pretty hefty suspension, and therefore that's his position is guys that can play underneath. And I know he plays in the slot too, but like Jeff said, guys that can get open based on them being able to stretch the defense, maybe unlike they were able to the last couple of years.
I'll ask you this, Jeff. How many wide receivers on this team right now can the Chiefs trust? and trust is a big word, right? It's trust, to not be a jackass off the field, but it's also trust to, do your assignment on the field. How many wideouts would you say they can trust?
Well, Justin Watson, they can trust. Hollywood Brown, you would believe they can trust given his resume.
Right.
Xavier Worthy is a rookie, so you still have to, you got to hold your breath to see what happens there.
Absolutely. Don't know him. Don't know what he is you did your due diligence, but still don't know what you're going to get.
He could struggle. And obviously you've got, as I mentioned, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, zero trust there. The other thing about Rashee Rice, and I've had law enforcement people tell me that jail time is not out of the equation here. Like, it's a very real possibility in Texas that he might be in jail, which probably is going to add to the Chiefs' concerns here. So, yeah, I again, it's like you start going down the list, it starts to feel like last season just because you just don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. How many can you trust if you're the Chiefs, Sam?
Well, I mean, there's question marks about literally every wide receiver on the roster for different reasons. I mean, Rashee Rice is because of his situation. Hollywood Brown's because he's never played in this offense before. Same with Xavier Worthy. He's never even played in the NFL before. I mean, Justin Watson had like an 18% drop rate last year. And I agree with Jeff. He might be at the top of this list.
He is at the top of the list.
There's questions about every single guy on the list, I think, for a different, like I said, for a different reason. But everyone's on this list for guys that you've got questions about.
Yeah, I listen, and that's where I would say you can trust Justin Watson. That's a great point about the drops last year. He was infected by that little disease as well. But, for me, we know Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, nobody needs to hear me go that route. But, I mean, just the whole list, Montreal Washington, Cornell Powell, Justin Ross, like that is it. Just like a dependable guy that, hey, here are the routes we want. You can run the route. You can be there. You show up on time. You do things. That's kind of missing. And I'll kind of foreshadow. I mentioned the left tackle and the cornerback spot because I don't think that's getting all the play it probably should, because this is such an overwhelming topic, right? This is kind of masking that it is a pretty big deal that you're going to turn left tackle over to somebody with almost no experience, whoever it ends up being. It is a pretty big deal that L'Jarius Sneed has been taken out of this equation. We like the depth. We like the answers. But all that's been completely washed away because this is such an overwhelming, and with the video of the car crash, Jeff, the NFL Network, like you got video that leads, right? Like, I mean, so it has really kind of sucked up all the oxygen in the room. The team really does have more questions than just this.
Well, it does. And I want to be optimistic at this time of year and Sam probably remembers this. He was at the ring ceremony last year when you talk to Sky Moore or you talk to Kadarius Toney. There was so much, they believed this was going to be their chance to step in and show the world what they could be playing with Patrick Mahomes. And I've had a couple people make a good point about this, is that as great as this team has been, as great as Mahomes has been, really, you take Tyreek Hill out of the equation and Rashee Rice for the season he had last year, and there hasn't been a lot of receivers you really like, especially the guys who've left here, because most of those guys, Demarcus Robinson has made kind of a mini comeback in LA, but it's just most of these guys haven't been that good. And so I'm starting to lean more towards, there could be more growing pains coming with this group than we suspect, just because, it's great to see the photos and then working out and, all the video and what's happening in Texas. But I was as shocked as anybody by how last year played out. And I wouldn't be shocked again if we're having these same concerns this coming season.
Let me tell you one difference between why we talk more about wide receiver than we do cornerback. The wide receiver coach is in his second year with the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
Any of us give him an A grade last year. Their cornerbacks are coached by Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt, and they have not used, other than Trent McDuffie, top capital in either the draft or free agency to go get their cornerbacks, and they've made it work anyway. With wide receiver, they have used capital. They've used McCole Hardman as a second-round pick. Sky Moore as a second-round pick. Now they're reaching into the first round for Xavier Worthy, and they've also added some guys, some veteran players via free agency. Like, they have put resources into the wide receiver position, and it hasn't worked out. And so I think we have to trust that the cornerbacks develop for a reason. And that's why we talk about that position less than we have wide receiver.
Agreed. And I think you can feel like, you get a veteran offensive line coach as well, and you've got a third and second round pick. You've at least got numbers to throw at left tackle. I do agree. I'm not trying to say, that the house is on fire here with these other spots, but they are significant things that they have to do. And listen, it's the NFL. Roster's constantly turning over. Everybody's working on something this time of year. Nobody's got all the pieces put in place. But I just think it is amazing. Those are premium spots, right? You say, what are the premium spots on the field? Left tackle and corner one are, places you're going to get to really quick. And there really hasn't been time to talk about how, hey, that could blow up and go pretty wrong, right? Like, it's one thing if you don't have anyone to throw to, but if Mahomes doesn't have any time, having guys who don't know where they're going or don't know how to get to the stadium, gets worse.
Yeah, and really never more in this run they've had over the last 5 years, looking back at last season, have they had to rely on so many people to win a championship. You could probably argue that last year's championship, you had to have almost every guy within their starting group have to play well, have to contribute, have to do something to make this work. And they all did at some point eventually, right? But again, you begin to have these questions about, can you repeat that kind of magic without L'Jarius Sneed or with a rookie left tackle and the wide receiver issues? I think it's a big challenge, because really they won in spite of what they had at receiver last year.
Yeah, no doubt. We're also brought to you by our friends at Northland Injury Law. I had a call out, a shout out for one of the lawyers from Northland Injury Law to come in and give us some legal expertise. We'll have to look into that. Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, other serious personal injuries. Their attorneys have been serving KC for more than 40 years. They don't get paid unless they get money for their clients. That's right. They don't get paid unless you get paid. Northland Injury Law voted number 1 accident lawyer in Kansas City. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT. That's HURT to 22222. Again, if you have a case right now, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one. It should not be based solely upon advertisements. Again, text HURT to 22222 to get connected 24/7 to Northland Injury Law. Let's talk a little bit about Wanya Moore. Speaking of left tackle, does anybody, Sam, you're going to be the best bet on this. Want to help me out on the first name? Chuck Weebubuka?
I mean, I spell it for a living. I don't say it for a living. So
Godrick and Morris arrested for possession of marijuana. All right. Listen, I honestly, Best Wellness is right there. On the Missouri, I really don't care about this personally. I think this is where I think we're 10 minutes away from this being a non-issue everywhere.
Yeah.
But it does speak a little bit, Jeff, to the fact that it's careless. You do know that in one state it's legal, in one state it's not. It just shows a lack of attention to detail, right?
Yeah.
At the very least.
Hey, when you're wearing orange jumpsuits and in the photos, it's a problem. No matter what your philosophy is on legalizing marijuana or where you can get it for legally, it's a problem. You've made a bad decision, and so yeah, I mean, I'm not really hip to. I guess I haven't done enough homework to know exactly how bad this can be for them legally, but it's bad enough to where it's a big stain on the Chiefs. You don't want people in cuffs. You don't want people in jail. And yeah, I think it does affect Wanya Morris because he's fighting to win a job here, and every piece of doubt he can put in the coach's minds about who he is or what he's going to do or how mature he is opens up the door for Suamataia. How about that? I got that one right.
Yeah, well done.
And I can't. We'll call him Chuck G, the other guy. But for now, no. I think it definitely is an issue for him, and it just kind of it's again just with Rashee Rice, it's horrible timing. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. By the way, I mean we got the code there. You can go to Best Me Wellness and get 25% off. So, I don't know the guy if they just stayed in Missouri. They'd be fine. Look, locations all over the Missouri side for Best of Me Wellness. And right now, save 25% if you take in the promo code. So jot it down.
Yeah. Andy Reid and Brett Veach may be partaking soon, the way this is going with the off season. They may be writing it down right now. Like
Podcast 25.
We got to get through this.
With the promo code in Podcast 25, you can save 25% when you check out on your entire order. It's a pretty good deal, Podcast 25. Take it to Best of Me Wellness. Tell your friends. Tell them you heard about it here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. I mean, Sam, again, I talked to an NFL personnel person several years ago. I mean, maybe more like 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago now. And at that time, I said, hey, I'm kind of hearing this or that about this guy. And they're like, yeah, like, I don't even think the league really checks the tests. Right? They do them because it's still part of the agreement, but nobody's really even looking at them. So the league has moved on from really worrying about marijuana, but the state of Kansas has not. And that's the part. Like, do you worry about where their head is if something as simple as just stay on one side of the state line and you're all good?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jeff said, but, I thought Kingsley Suamataia had a leg up going into OTAs this week. I thought they really liked him coming out of rookie camp. And everything I heard about him was what, his movements were what they expected, if not better. And I don't think that Wanya Morris going into a draft with no competition, I don't think any of us were penciling him in as the starter at left tackle. And so I think, from a Chiefs perspective, he's already running from behind and, now he's running with an arrest record. And I just don't – it's not a great way for him to go into training camp. And if this was on the heels of nothing this offseason, I don't even know that we'd be talking about it on this show. It's what has come down the pike. Just consistently, the Chiefs are in national news for all the wrong reasons this entire offseason. We should be talking about them having a ring ceremony, them going to the White House. And instead, none of this offseason has been about celebrating a Super Bowl championship.
Let's talk a little bit about Harrison Butler. Right? He makes the comments. He's upset a lot of people. Sam, you wrote a column about it. Lots of feedback on that column. We don't do politics really here. So the point of this discussion before anybody freaks out and loses their mind, because I know everybody's got their team. And if you're not cheering 100% for that team, they hate you with a passion. That's not what we're getting into here. Question is, this is another distraction, right? He's not being arrested, but he's like the lead news in Europe, right? Like on shows in Europe. Like, this is everywhere. And listen, everything will blow over eventually. But Jeff, is this again? Everyone's entitled to their opinion in America. You can have them, good, bad, right, wrong, whether people agree or not agree. He's certainly entitled to those comments. But you got to know that there's going to be blowback. right? And if you're creating a situation, I'm sure that there are many guys on this team, in this front office, in this coaching staff that have very strong opinions about this same subject or others in politics. There may be folks who have family members in the Middle East who have a very strong opinion on those things, but those are hot button, explosive topics. And Andy Reid preaches focusing on the main thing. Is this again a sign that the Chiefs are getting away from focusing on the main thing? He's entitled to those comments, but those comments have created a bit of a firestorm around him, and all of his teammates are going to be answering questions about this.
Yeah, I think for, following the coverage of it, and I realize why people were so up in arms on both ends of it. I think, first of all, I think Sam did a great job with his column. And I understand people feeling like, oh, he can say what he wants to say, whatever, blah, blah, blah. End of the day, the bigger issue in this is that, yeah, you're part of an organization. You're part of a team. And when you go out there and you do these things, it does create difficult situations for your teammates to be in. For one, now you walk in that building, I'm sure there's people who are LGBTQ in the building. I'm sure there are people who are benefiting from DEI. I'm sure there are plenty of women in there who have opinions. That's already an issue there. Now you've got teammates who may look at you in a weird way or wondering what you're about. Now you have coaches who've got to come talk. I guarantee you this wasn't just he did a speech and then everybody said, okay, whatever, let's go on. I guarantee you Andy Reid and Brett Veach had to sit down and talk to him about this. And they don't want to be doing this kind of stuff. It was again, he can say what he wants to say, but you're inviting this kind of blowback, which is not productive. And so again, it's within the framework of what's already happened with Rashee Rice, with Wanya Morris. Yeah, it's been a long two months for the Chiefs, and I'm sure that the people in charge are tired of it.
Yeah. What do you think the reaction is, Sam?
Well, I mean, you said focus on the main thing. For Harrison Butler, this is the main thing. I mean, this is the difference between, Rashee Rice's incident this summer, between the Wanya Morris thing that we just talked about. Is this is an annual conversation about Harrison Butler because he believes this should be an annual conversation. And so this is not a situation where Harrison Butler gave an incomplete answer to a question or an answer that, some of us didn't like to a question. This is a pre-planned speech where he spoke for more than 20 minutes. And so therefore he chose his words carefully. And I can tell you from talking to Harrison Butler about this type of thing in the past, he's not surprised by the reaction. This is not a situation where he's like, whoa, I had no idea that this would spark or elicit this sort of response from people. He knew it and believes it's important to do it anyway. And so it's a different situation because of that. So you mentioned, potentially Brett Veach and Andy Reid talking to Harrison Butler. I don't think that's going to have an impression on him because he believes his thoughts and his comments come from a higher calling, and he thinks that higher calling is more important than football.
How about this? Beery Mister says, we get Kelsey's take on the world every week in a podcast and get no blowback. Have I missed something?
Exactly. What's he talking about over there?
Has he gone down a road similar to this? I don't think
have
so.
I missed that?
I think that may have been tongue in cheek. By the way.
At the Cavs game when he was doing the Dougie.
Yeah. Listen, I do, and I think that's an important distinction. Sam, you said this is the main thing. He feels very strongly about this. He wants those comments out there. You said he knew what was going to come his way, right? The question is, I'll bring up Colin Kaepernick at this time because Colin Kaepernick knew what he was going to do was going to be a firestorm, and he was willing to do it at the loss of a highly lucrative job. He was willing. He wanted to make the statement and was still to this day willing to make the statement, and it cost him his football career. I don't think any of us think this is going to cost Harrison Butler his career, is it?
It could. Let him start missing some field goals. I guarantee you they run him out of there in a hurry.
Well,
your big kicks.
Yeah, your a-hole, your a-hole tolerance, and I don't mean that I'm saying, but your let's put it this way: how much it's the old phrase. Listen, you're not good enough to be an asshole, right? If you're really good, people will tolerate with Reggie Jackson going after the manager in the dugout because he hits 45 home runs, right? Like Barry Bonds can be an ass because he hits 73 home runs. Yeah. You can be those guys. Randy Moss can be a handful because he catches 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns. Buckner's arguably the best kicker in football right now. So there is, and maybe that's him saying, this is my time.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And so, look, I'll go back to the 2016 election. And Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were very close friends with Donald Trump. And this is not to get into, Trump, Biden, or whatever. And, I think at one point, Brady may have had a Trump hat in his locker at one point and was asked about it. And both those guys kind of said, hey, we're friends with him. They didn't get into their politics, didn't get into making statements and trying to, because they knew, where's the gain in this for us right now? You can have your views and you can have your opportunities to discuss those views in other places. But again, when you're part of a team, you don't want to make it hard on other people. And so here's a scenario I can see playing out. Patrick Mahomes gets in front of a microphone this week, first week of OTAs. Hey, Patrick, how do you feel about what Harrison Butler says? If he says, well, I don't want to get into it, blah, 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 whatever, well, then is that a tacit agreement with it? Are you too afraid to get into the topic? Like, you've already kind of boxed your teammates into a situation where they're either agreeing with you or having to fight with you publicly. That's not fair to them.
I totally agree. And I'd add one thing about Harrison Butler when we talk about his career, his job just got harder because all the pressure's on him. And I think when we look at kickers, the way we analyze kickers is how they perform under pressure, because we all see these guys at practice and know they can all kick at this level. The difference is the guys that can do it under pressure and do it when you've only got one shot. And so, the road games, I think, could be hell for Harrison Butler for depending on where he goes. For 8 or 9 games next year. And I don't know what percentage of Arrowhead Stadium is in agreement with Harrison Butler versus not. But I do know those who are not are going to be referencing this if he has a couple of bad weeks.
Yeah. Well, I promise you San Francisco will be a tough road trip for him. I'll
yes.
put that.
Yeah.
I'll make that bet right now.
Listen,
yes. And by the way, that's the lesson from the Colin Kaepernick thing, right?
Yeah.
And Colin Kaepernick had, after preseason games, he had more media than we see at Chiefs games and in the playoffs. So he had to be constantly aware, and it had to be in the back of his mind even during a game, because it was on everyone else's mind as they watched him play the game. And Harrison Butler is a meticulous preparation sort of person, particularly with the way his routine before kicks and stuff. And he treats every kick he says as if it's the final kick of a Super Bowl, because he wants, when he kicks a regular season, preseason kick, for it not to feel like that big of a deal. And so that's a person telling you that the mental part of the game is a huge component for him. And that mental equation just changed for him by his own doing, because last night on the Daily Show, he's the lead story nationally. He's the lead story on Good Morning America. He's in their A block. And so when I say I don't think he was surprised by the response, I don't think he's surprised that people disagree with him. He might be surprised at just the level of attention this has received, though.
Brett, we've had a couple of people talk about, hey, he's the number one selling jersey right now. And
I think amongst Chiefs, or second. I think it's after Kelsey.
Is that right? Okay. I got a couple of people putting up there that he was number one. Listen, it's and I don't know where he is. I haven't checked. I've heard that tossed around. I haven't looked up any numbers, but I'm sure there are many people that said, well, I believe in him. I believe in what he's saying. I'm going to support it. I'm going to buy the jersey and show my support that way. The question is what it'll be for the team. And I do think, somebody said, hey, is this right? Tanya Hunt has already come out and said she supports his comments.
Tavia. Yeah.
Tavia.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Is that true? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, she came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is one of the differences between Colin Kaepernick and him, in the sense that ownership, at least this ownership, based upon those comments, would be on his side.
Well, but again, is she speaking for everybody, or is she speaking for herself? Because the NFL obviously came out and said, okay, we're not down for what he's saying. He can say what he wants to say, but we believe something else. The Chiefs would best serve to actually come out and say something to deal with it. I think they're hoping it just goes away and blows over. And like Sam mentioned, once it's up in Ireland, and other put Scotland and talking about it. And it's not a good thing. It's not just going to blow over. I guarantee you, we haven't heard the last of this story.
We're proudly brought to you by Besame Wellness. You can find them online at besamewellness.com. You can save 25% if you go with the code podcast25. All purchases, your entire order at Besame Wellness.
Besame Wellness, online or curbside. Shop daily at Besame Wellness for all your cannabis needs. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, Sundays, 10 to 6. Locations in North Kansas City, Liberty, Smithville on Berry Road, and in Warrensburg. Even delivery for medical marijuana. Getting your cannabis has never been easier. We at Besame Wellness strive to make your life as easy as possible and cannabis as accessible as possible.
Let's talk about Harrison Butler coming to a podium. Let's talk about Rashee Rice coming to a podium. OTAs are in effect. They have media availabilities during these times. Sam, what do you think? We're going to see either one of these guys at a podium?
No, we won't. Yeah, you didn't need to bring the guy that goes to all the press conferences to answer that question. Look, I think they should put Harrison Butler out there. I think these are two separate situations, even though we've accurately grouped them together as distractions from football. But they are two separate situations in the sense that Rashee Rice is going through a legal situation right now. Any lawyer that would put him to answer a Q&A with people would be foolish. And so I understand that. I do think there could be some sort of statement, whether that does come from the team or Rashee. And the same with Harrison Butler, because by not having some sort of public rebuke for some of his comments, what ends up happening is now Andy Reid's going to answer questions tomorrow. Jeff just said it. Patrick Mahomes is going to answer questions tomorrow. This becomes the players and coaches having to answer for something that another player said when, as I mentioned before, Harrison Butler is firm in his beliefs. And therefore, if he is, I think he should be willing to go out and answer questions about it.
By the way, Tommy, Rashee Rice will not be available until about day 6 of training camp on a Saturday morning.
I'm taking the over. I'm taking beyond that.
Yeah.
They do. What is the official, Jeff, do you know? You're supposed to, during the season, you got to be made available during the week and after a game, right?
During the off season, it's once a week as well.
Yeah, once a week.
Unless you're injured. This happened with Frank Clark a couple of years ago when he had been suspended for the start of the season. He had the 2 gun arrests. He got suspended, I think, during the middle of the season, but we already knew about the 2 gun arrests. He had a hamstring injury on about day 5 of training camp, so the clock restarted. But, technically speaking, he should talk during the first week of training camp.
What is is there anybody police that, Jeff? Because the Chiefs don't.
No,
they don't adhere to that.
No, I mean, look, you've got the Pro Football Writers Association. You can lodge complaints. You can push for it, but generally, it's an uphill battle. And I think I agree that you're probably not going to see either one of those guys for a while. I do agree that both should be talking sooner than later for different reasons. For one, Rashee Rice, you've already admitted culpability, and I do understand that you've got a court battle to fight and lawsuits in place, but you can be savvy enough to answer questions in a way that doesn't put you in harm's way, doesn't jeopardize yourself. And so I think that's the case there. I think with Butler, as I said before, I think it's more about, to be honest with you, it's about clarification. I don't think he needs to come out and, if he doesn't believe in apologizing, he shouldn't apologize. But he needs to understand that you're going to face consequences for that publicly. You're going to have people asking questions of you, and you've created a situation for yourself. I saw someone say the same thing I've heard before, which is why are people getting upset because he made some comments about his beliefs at a Catholic university's graduation. Well, it wouldn't have been so bad if he wasn't so. My problem with the whole thing is that he used religion as a way to take shots at people. And he got really, he tried to be clever about it, and it wasn't clever. And ultimately, you could have gave the same speech, talked about the same values in a way that wasn't offensive to people. Didn't have to insult people. Didn't have to take shots at people. Like I tell people all the time, aside from being homophobic, racist, and sexist, he nailed the speech. So it's just like, do it better next time.
It should be pointed out. I don't know if the whole university came out and said that they did not agree with his speech, or if it was just the Sisters of
the organization. Yeah, not the whole university. I think people at the university were not surprised.
Well, I think if you, I'm with you, Sam. Like they didn't ask me, they didn't ask you, they didn't ask Jeff, they didn't. I think their beliefs are probably quite similar. We're left only to conclude that because I think Harrison Butler's. I think it's been known that he would be considered a very conservative, and he's made Catholicism and religion has made very clear that those are very important things in his life, and more power to him. I think they got what they knew they were going to get. I don't know that they knew that it was maybe going to go this far, but I do think it should be pointed out that Sisters of the university said no.
Yeah,
we don't condone this.
But based on conversations I've had subsequently with people affiliated with the university, I think they expected every bit of what Harrison Butler said. And somebody here has pointed out in our comments that he got a standing ovation. Like nothing that I've said, Soren said, Jeff has said has been about what would be the most popular thing that Harrison Butler could have said, or analyzing the popularity of it. Nor is it critical of his faith. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because there are people of this faith that are upset about this as well, because it wasn't, to Jeff's point, it's very, it falls in line with what I wrote. I have no problem with Harrison Butler speaking out about his faith at all, especially for that kind of audience. I do wish it could have not disparaged other groups of people, especially groups of people that have fought an uphill battle for a long time now.
Yeah. All right, let's tie this all together. Again, I think your beliefs should be stronger than your job, right? I think there are times your job asks you to do something that you don't believe in. You should stick with your beliefs, right? So I certainly get that, and I respect anyone that has that kind of commitment to their beliefs. But we know that that's not what coaches preach. Coaches don't preach. Bring in your family values. Bring in your home culture. Share that with the world. Use your platform to make the world a better place. That's not what they preach. It's certainly not what name anybody else who has stood in a public forum and made a speech about anything that has gotten this kind of reaction under Andy Reid. I think we can all agree this isn't Andy Reid's first choice for what he'd want. He just as soon you go do your thing. In fact, I think we would say that Andy Reid probably would click the same button on a lot of votes as Harrison Butler.
Yeah.
We know that from the past, right? But he does not want distractions. There's a reason why no one gets to talk. He hides people even when they're supposed to be made available. He does not want distractions. That's the program they've preached. It's won them 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. Jeff, is this a sign that they're losing the focus that has served them well for the last 6 years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever you have success and
by the way, I'm not just talking about Harrison Butler. I'm talking about Rashee
Rice. No, the whole thing.
All the things, yeah.
To me, it's all related. It's different situations and circumstances and consequences, but to me, it all speaks to you got guys feeling too comfortable about what they can do when they're away from this team because they've had so much success. You go out there, if you're Rashee Rice, you're out there drag racing because you feel like, you know what, I walked in the league, I got a ring, I was a big part of the team, I can do what I want. You're Harrison Butler, you get on stage, you know what, I've been here for a while, got a bunch of rings, one of the best kickers in the NFL, I can say what I want to now. If you're Wanya Morris, instead of, I don't know where the guy lives, but I've been here for a year, I got a ring, I can go over here, get my pot instead of staying in Missouri and getting it done. Yeah, that all speaks to it. Look, I've said it before. The two things, as much as we talk about the talent and Mahomes and the greatness of Andy Reid and Kelsey, all that stuff, this team has won championships for 2 big reasons. One is chemistry, one is discipline. You start losing those 2 things, And again, all the things we're talking about can challenge that. It makes it a lot harder because we've said it before. It's not Georgia or Michigan out there rolling people by 20, 30 points a game in college football. This team won its last 2 championships by 9 points. It's like they can lose, and you can lose a lot easier when you're not doing the things you've been doing to win.
Sam, how about it? Is this, do you think, a sign of a potential, not that they're, oh my God, they're lost, they're going to win 5 games next year? It's not what we're saying. It's not what we're getting at. But is it a sign that at least right now, the compass isn't exactly pointing due north when it comes to their direction and focus on winning a 3rd championship?
Yeah, I think the one similarity in all of these issues is it's a sign of invincibility, personal invincibility. And there is a breaking point at some point where singular invincibility, if there's enough instances of it, it rubs off on the entire team itself. And I don't think the Chiefs are there with these 3 incidents alone, but this is going to change the course of training camp for the Chiefs. And I think the most underrated part of the reason they won the Super Bowl was their training camp, their offseason programming last year. And that offseason programming is now going to look a lot different this week, this month, next month, and then in the training camp than it did a year ago.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see. They got time to bring it together. If they are indeed off course, could just be, like I said, the Rashee Rice is obviously the most serious one because he could have killed somebody, right? That's it. But there's some carelessness. Let's see if they can get the focus back based upon how Andy Reid wants to focus, right? He wants to focus on football, and we'll see if they can get that back during the course of the rest of this offseason. Sam, nice job. We appreciate it. Great stuff here on your debut edition. It's great to have you. And, of course, we pass along our great love for Eric Eager as well. He joined us early. If you missed it, if you caught us late, go back, catch it on the podcast. If you're catching us via the podcast, you probably caught it. But Eric giving us a farewell, and we appreciate, again, Carolina Panthers giving him a few minutes because I know he'll be off limits here moving forward. But to say goodbye to everybody. So to our buddy Eric Eager, we say the best of luck once again to you and your new endeavors. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com, Sam McDowell, columnist for the Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.